And the XCM visualizer, actually, I didn't get to.
Yes, there are multiple teams that already use it.
Awesome. So, welcome to the 6th episode of AwesomeDOT podcast.
If I sum it up in one word, it's I think I should write a book about this because.
That would be great. So I think that's what Christian saw, right?
Right. So yeah, as you mentioned, ParaSpell currently consists of 5.
Let's dive into like all the parts that make up ParaSpell. Like, we have 5 different things that are listed.
Well, it's mostly centered about around the Czechia and Slovakia. We are like together building a community.
Definitely. I mean, I've been sort of also doing some research around.
I mostly compare XCM to IBC in Cosmos.
And for our listeners who wanted to learn about ParaSpell, please. Welcome to the 6th episode of AwesomeDOT podcast. I'm your host Yogesh, and today we are joined by Dušan, the founder of ParaSpell. He recently completed his PhD, and he is also a graduate of the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. With his academic background and experience in Polkadot.
Yes, it's Dušan, but yeah, Dudo is alright. Yeah,
all right, I'll call you Dudo for now. Yeah. Awesome. So I wanted to dive a bit into your history. You had a fairly academic background. So what sort of motivated you to get into crypto? How did you start?
Thank you for the invite. I'm happy to speak here. Thank you. If I sum it up in one word, it's. It was just a surprise for me every time. It was just a series of random events. So, funnily, my journey to the crypto began in my final year of bachelor studies, when my friend convinced me to sign for a crypto-oriented subject.
Okay.
That my good friend was teaching back then. Before, I was quite skeptical about crypto because I looked at crypto as some investment thing. I didn't really look at crypto from technology perspective. I didn't really see benefits that crypto offered, and I wasn't an investment guy. I was in technology, but not in crypto, because my hobby was actually repairing electronics along with my studies. And this dates back to the high school. But back to the topic. So I signed to this subject where we had to do blockchain from scratch. We had to do Ethereum battleships, smart contract exercise, and then the last project was building something unique in the Hyperledger fabric. I remember we built a system for onboarding users to flight companies with my friend. That's how my journey began. It was quite funny because it was totally random. My friend told me, why don't we sign for this subject? Because back then it was brand new. It was first year it was offered, and so we were kind of beta testers. The subject, of course, proved to be really difficult and required a lot of effort, but it gave me lots of insights. Then it became time for me to choose my bachelor thesis topic, and oh boy, was it a journey. Back then, I didn't really have preferences, or I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do some application, but I didn't know what application, didn't even think of creating something in crypto or in Web3 world. I signed for multiple bachelor thesis topics. One of the topics was offered by my now good friend. The guy that I mentioned was teaching the crypto subject. His name is Christian. So he had a topic of cross-blockchain communication. I signed there and to the couple of other topics. I didn't really have good marks. I wasn't really a good student back then. all I wanted was to pass the university, get a degree, get a master degree, and work somewhere random. I didn't have a plan, so it was totally unorganized. Expectedly, most of the teachers rejected my application, and one of my last applications was to the Christians cross-blockchain communication topic. We had a call, and in some things I remember I lied because I have to admit, because I wanted him to sign me. So I lied that I was interested in the crypto topic, but I really had no idea how much it will interest me later on, and I had no idea what cross-blockchain communication really meant. But I know that I know that he seen me through and knew I lied at some topics. I could see it in his face. I could tell that. But yeah, in the end, he decided to sign me. And to this day, I do not know why. I asked him multiple times, and he always says that he just knows how to see people that are extraordinary in some way. To this day, I couldn't find what I'm extraordinary at, but he said that he can see that, and so he signed me on. There was another 2 students, as a matter of fact, that he could have signed instead of me, that had much better marks than I did, and they were also better students from academic perspective. But yeah, he decided for me, for which I'm very thankful. And fast forward to today, I'm very glad that he did it, because I now have 8 international publications, 4 already out, 2 accepted to conference, and 2 for journals. I also had a chance to attend Polkadot Blockchain Academy in Buenos Aires during my master studies, so it also gave me a lot of insightful information that I use to this day and help me to innovate. It helps me to innovate tools that we are working on further. I'm also into research a lot. I love to write research articles about important topics such as XCM. And that is why I also applied for PhD studies after I finished my master's 2 months ago. I got accepted, so I will definitely continue in making more publications about Polkadot ecosystem. And that was really one of the main goals also as to why I applied for PhD, to make more publications about Polkadot ecosystem. And I would also like to go back to my bachelor days again to point out that I had another supervisor, which is well known in the ecosystem as Vicky Val, co-founder of Polkadot. He helped me to choose Polkadot, and without him, I would have never explored XCM. I would have never tried to do a Web3 Foundation funding for the early stage of ParaSpell, and I would have never believed that I have this passion inside of me for blockchain. So much thanks goes to Christian and Vicky for this. Another funny story actually was with how I became colleagues with Michael. To those who don't know who Michael is, he's my colleague and core dev to ParaSpell XCM tools. It all happened randomly one day at our school library when Michael asked me if I could help him and his team with proposal for funding in some random network. I don't really remember which at the moment. They had a project for master thesis they wanted to get some funding for. And at that time, I already delivered my first proposal to Web3 Foundation. So it was a big deal at our school. And every teacher that knew me, they suggested their students to contact me and ask me to help with crypto topics and research. So it was cool. I helped them gladly because I was interested in broadening my information, knowledge about crypto and more. I remember Michael was filling up some form about his expertise in programming languages, and he ticked the box with TypeScript. I asked him if he clicked this box just for fun, but he was like, no, I actually really like TypeScript, and I have a few years of professional experience programming for a well-known company. And immediately, for me, I wanted him. So I was like, wouldn't you be open for doing some programming at ParaSpell by any chance? And because, well, back then it was only me in the team, and I wasn't that good in the programming back then. I didn't have much professional experience, so I was searching for someone who had knowledge in TypeScript that can help me lift the project up. And to my surprise, Michael was open to it, and the rest is history, and we are now colleagues for 2 years already. I really couldn't have wished for a better colleague than Michael. He is the best in what he does, in my opinion, and I'm looking forward for many more years of our partnership in ParaSpell. So yeah, that's my journey to crypto and to Polkadot. It was such an adventure, and I think I should write a book about this, because I can talk many more hours about this.
That would be great. So I think that's what Christian saw, right? Then he thought something extraordinary was you solving XCM for regular people. I think probably that's an extraordinary feat, and it's no joke, sort of writing everything around it, right? So it's very, very interesting journey overall. Like, it's spins and tumbles from here and there, and just landing to the right spot. Should be a book at some point. I mean, definitely. Right. So, okay, awesome. So then, how did you come across Polkadot? Right. I mean, this was cross-chain communication, and then from there, how did you sort of landed on Polkadot itself?
Yeah. So basically, as I mentioned, Vicky invited me because we were sort of exploring what should we do, what cross-chain operations we can perform on what blockchain. Vicky, he had experience on Polkadot, so it was naturally his first suggestion. I was open to it. I didn't know much about blockchain before, so I was looking forward to explore what I can do. And back then, XCM was fresh, so there weren't any guides or anything. So we had to go and do research, which I found I like. I like to do research, so yeah, it was kind of natural, the choice of Polkadot, and the fact that the network sees the potential and sees the need for this, and the fact that they still support us, I think is a clear choice for us to stay there. And we didn't even think of moving to another ecosystem, really. This was always our first choice from the start. So
nice. That's very good. That's great. I mean, yeah, the tech is like really good. It's just that it's so high entry to high barrier to entry that it gets a little difficult at times. But yeah, I mean, probably the best choice, especially for a chain that's trying to build cross-chain ecosystems, right? So yeah, awesome. So then you were based out of Slovakia, right? So can you give us an overview of like the Polkadot ecosystem and the crypto space there?
well, it's mostly centered about around the Czechia and Slovakia. We are like together building a community. Mostly, most of the like organization of these events come from Polkadot team. They are also from here, so they organize many events here, very nice events, and also our school tries to actively push towards cross-chain and towards also blockchain even. We have a blockchain subject, as I mentioned, and soon we are going to introduce a new one for the masters, for the master students. And yeah, basically this is the community there. It's not like really huge. yet, but we are trying to slowly build it. I mean, we do not even ask for funding here. It's just purely that we want to do this. So yeah, that's how we're building.
Awesome. So, I mean, like how are the regulations there overall for crypto? Like, is that something that Slovakia is still working on, or do you see progress there?
Well, currently they're quite strict. You have around 35% to pay if you swap currencies to the government. But there were some pushes to change this to much lower number, to 7% actually. But we'll see how this goes. Right now, Slovakia is really strict on crypto. I hope that it's going to change.
Hopefully, yeah. Awesome. Okay, let's start diving into the meat of the problem. So let's start diving into XCM. I think, right? So for our listeners who are not familiar, can you just explain what XCM is? Like just a general overview.
Yeah, I'll try to put it into simpler terms. So there are basically two main parts to cross-chain communication on Polkadot, and that is protocol and format. The XCM itself is just a format specifying how you should form your cross-chain messages to ensure the destination substrate chains would understand what you are trying to tell them. The other part is protocol. Currently, we have 3 protocols available for cross-chain communication on Polkadot. These are DMP, UMP, and HRMP. The DMP stands for downwards message passing and handles communication from relay chain to lower layers, which in this case are parachains or parathreads. Because Polkadot is essentially layered, but in programming fashion, where the relay chain is at layer 0, so it's on top, and the parachains are layer 1. From a logical perspective, this doesn't make sense, but from a programming perspective, 0 is always the first index. So layer 0 is above in this case. So relay chains are above and parachains are down when it comes to communication. The other protocol is UMP, upwards message passing. This is used for transferring messages from parachains up to the relay chain, as the name suggests. And the last protocol is called HRMP. This, as its name suggests, horizontally relay routed message passing passes the messages from one parachain to another parachain, but they have to be routed through a relay chain. So they have to go up. Relay chain stores the entire message, and then they travel down to the destination parachain. This protocol currently is just a stopgap protocol, because from storage perspective and from processing power perspective, this is inefficient. You don't want to go up and down always. This is inefficient. And this is why there is XCMP, or cross consensus message passing, being developed. This protocol allows you to transfer messages between parachains directly without you having to go to relay chain first. So it goes just straight to another parachain, but you also have to store something on the relay chain, but this is just metadata, small metadata compared to entire message. And the process of this cross-chain transfer will be much lighter and much faster. So there are many much more complex parts to the XCM, such as bridges, but they are another topic to cover. But this kind of sums it up in simple terms. And this is how I often explain XCM. I would also like to mention 4 core design principles to XCM. And they are that XCM is asynchronous. That means the messages between blockchains are processed independently and non-blockingly, which allows for increased scalability, efficiency, and fault tolerance. It's also absolute, meaning that it is guaranteed that the messages are interpreted accurately and in timely fashion. And then it's also asymmetric and agnostic. That pretty much covers what I can explain about XCM in simple terms, abstracting more complex things that XCM offers. I would highly suggest everyone to watch XCM Overview video by Polkadot. It goes really deep and explains lots of mechanics to XCM.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been sort of also doing some research around protocols, and Hyperbridge is also working on ISMP. So that's also an interesting sort of take at how cross-chain communication overall would look like from a protocol perspective. Any thoughts about ISMP? Have you looked into it?
I haven't heard of it. I definitely will look into it after this podcast. It sounds interesting. I mostly compare XCM to IBC in Cosmos, but I think XCM is superior to Cosmos in this case. In IBC
definitely. That's exactly the core reasoning that Hyperbridge is also sort of working with the whole. They have a sort of coprocessor that essentially is a serializer from one chain to the other. So they've written that. Quite interesting. You should definitely take a look. Right. Awesome. So okay. Yeah. Any thoughts?
One thing I would like to point out is that the IBC currently supports the cross-chain NFTs, but we in XCM lack palettes. So I will get back to this later. We will try to resolve this as ParaSpell Foundation later on. I'll get back to this.
Interesting. Okay. So, what did you find like the most challenging? So you essentially people say that XCM essentially is a convoluted protocol in general, and it gets a little difficult as you dive deeper and sort of get into the weeds. So what did you find the most challenging working with that?
Well, back in the day when I was starting and researching the XCM, I found difficult that there was lack of documentation. This has improved greatly, but still there is a room for significant improvement when it comes to documentation. And also examples. I haven't seen much examples. I had to go deep into the code of many repositories and search for actual examples on how to perform XCM. And then another problem, as we sort of started to go further with the research, we found that many parachains tend to implement the XCM a different way. So you cannot really unify this communication in a simple way. You have to build packages on top of it, which aggregate this into that one package and allow you to do this cross-chain communication easier. Because if you were a developer and you wanted to build support for multiple chains, you may find that they have different asset selection mechanisms, they have different wallets, and so on and so forth, and also different XCM palettes, because we know there's X tokens, there's Polkadot XCM, and much more. So there's a lot of diversity that needs to be overcome.
Right. Okay. Yeah, interesting. And with with the changes that are coming to the ecosystem, especially CoreJam, there would be a lot more documentation overall required for all of this. So okay. So let's dive into now ParaSpell, right? What was your motivation? Why build a huge platform to solve XCM?
As I mentioned, I stumbled upon these problems, which when I looked at it from another developer perspective, after I've done the research and after I noticed how much research I had to do, when I looked at it from the other developer perspective who just starts and they have to go through all of this, I wanted to solve this problem. I identified that this is a huge problem and I really wanted to create a solution for it. And at the time, I didn't have enough knowledge, enough time, or enough money to do any of this. So I tried to build slowly, with Web3 Foundation, and we were successful in this. And then it was a matter of finding making the tools better, getting the adoption and everything. It's just a long process to build ParaSpell. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So interesting. So let's dive into like all the parts that make up ParaSpell. Like we have 5 different things that are listed. Let's start talking about them. Right. Let's start with XCM API. If that works.
Right. So yeah, as you mentioned, ParaSpell currently consists of 5 different tools. They are consisted in one monorepository package, and I would like to start with SDK because it was kind of first, and I would go chronologically how the tools went. So the first tool that we built was XCM SDK that was meant to resolve these diversity problems. As of right now, it offers interoperability between 56 XCM compatible parachains, 2 relay chains, and Ethereum, since we also implemented the Snowbridge recently. This interoperability can be all implemented in just one line, where you specify from where, to where, what currency, if you are transferring from parachain to parachain, because relay chain to parachain and parachain to relay chain scenarios does not require you to do currency specification, because we already know what currency are you probably going to transfer, since relay chains only support one currency. Then you specify the amount and the destination account that will be receiving the XCM, and that's it. No complex multi-locations, no complex asset selections, just complete unification of cross-chain communication into one package. So XCM SDK not only offers users to do cross-chain transfers, but it also offers many useful features such as transfer info, for example, queries, which allows you to query important information regarding fees, whether you are sufficient to transfer XCM based on your balance, and more such as existential deposit queries, pallet queries, other asset queries, and everything you may find useful for a front end. So it has it all. The second project is the one that you mentioned, the XCM API, which is actually the first and the only XCM API in the ecosystem, to our knowledge. This project essentially allows you to packagelessly implement any package we offer. You just implement simple fetch request. API is free to everyone forever, but it also has DDoS protection, so you do not have to worry about your favorite XCM API server being down. We allow users to do 10 requests per minute, but they can update it to 100 requests per minute very easily. With just simple CAPTCHA validation. We do not collect any data. They just do CAPTCHA validation to prove us that they are not robots, and they get a key to perform 100 requests per minute. And even if this isn't sufficient to some project, they can request custom amount of requests per minute via just a simple form. And this tool was created for Hackathon, which it won actually. But also it received Web3 Foundation funding for the final touches. So yeah, that's basically the overview of XCM API. The other tool, which was also created with the Web3 Foundation, is XCM Router. XCM Router is another unique project that is unlike anything else currently offered in the ecosystem. It allows you essentially to cross-chain swap assets. It does it by implementing all open source DEXs on Polkadot and Kusama. It calculates which DEX is the most efficient choice for your desired cross-chain swap, and It also can be implemented just like SDK within one line, despite the fact that it implements SDK as a core component for cross-chain transfers. As an example, that will help you clarify how this tool works. Consider this use case. You have Astar on Astar, and you would like to have Glimmer on Moonbeam, for example. So XCM router routes the origin asset to selected exchange, exchanges the asset, and then routes it to the destination chain, to the selected destination account. This greatly offloads many crucial steps that developers would have to otherwise perform to allow such task. XCM router in total supports all 8 open source DEXs within Polkadot and Kusama, which in total is 524 asset pools to choose from, which makes this tool largest liquidity sourcing tool on the Polkadot and Kusama. Next tool we have is XCM Analyzer. This allows you to decode XCM instructions to human readable format, and you can either enter entire XCM call or just multi-location you wish to decode. And the last but not least is XCM Visualizator. This is the latest addition to our toolset, and it was developed as a project in one of the subjects we had at the university, and I was wondering what should we do to make something meaningful out of this subject, which was meant to learn you visualize data efficiently. So I got the idea to visualize XCM. I do not know of any tool in the ecosystem that lets you visualize XCM in 3D. We had negotiations with our teacher, who was firstly against, but seeing that we were very dedicated, he allowed us to create this project and as our semester work. The project was then submitted to Hackathon, where it won second place, and since then it's allowing users to visualize XCM in a universe like 3D visualization, where relay chain is the center of the galaxy, and the other chains are connected to it, and they are also interconnected together based on HRMP, based on how the HRMP channels are open. This tool is also meant for data scientists or even for users just to explore for fun, but it contains useful 2D visualizations of selected parachains, and it allows you, for example, to query which account on which parachain uses the most cross-chain operations, or which parachain transfers which assets the most. It also allows you to customize time frame, so you can see how network scaled over time. And currently it supports Polkadot only, but we already have added Kusama, Rococo, investment ecosystems. We just have to get the data for them so we can visualize it. These are the tools that we offer in ParaSpell, but we also want to mention 2 more important details. We also offer comprehensive documentation for every tool. We go in depth and show implementation examples along with explanation of everything. The other detail is that we offer XCM Playground actually, which lets you try each of our tools. So if you are a developer, you can try our tools hands-on without you needing to implement it. Or if you are a user, you can explore XCM through our tools. XCM Playground is essentially also largest cross-chain UI on Polkadot because it combines XCM SDK ability to transfer between 59 chains and also XCM router ability to use all 524 asset pools. But we do not market it this way. We wish it to be a tool where everyone can come in and try our tools without needing to implement them first, which saves much research time for them. If they want to compare it to other tools, for example, if something is better or not, and stuff like that. That is about it when it comes to overview of what ParaSpell currently offers. I believe this is
that is
quite
amazing.
extended.
Like a lot. That looks like a lot of sleepless nights. And the XCM visualizer, actually, I didn't I didn't get to check it out yet. But when we do actually edit this video, we are going to add all the 2D visualizations so that people actually get to understand the scope of the project itself. But nice. So okay. So is ParaSpell currently in production? Is anyone using it?
Yes, there are multiple teams that already use it, and we also would like to point out that we offer to everyone who wish to implement the support for the tools. We offer a free support, and this support is in a form of one-to-one Telegram group where we can respond to you much faster than if you, for example, opened a issue, which I think is also issue in the ecosystem, that you cannot get this direct support from anyone else. Like, we try to bridge this gap because we think that getting the support ASAP can be sometimes really detrimental for some projects that are short on deadline, for example. So
Definitely.
there are multiple teams, and for example, Polkadot, you may be familiar with it, Elastic, Polkadot is using them, and much more.
Nice. So, do you have any metrics like around this? Do you have any numbers? Have you seen what sort of usage have you seen?
We do not collect any metrics, but what we see is that XCM API, for example, has on average 50,000 plus requests per month, which we believe is really nice for such a young project. As for SDK, I believe it had almost more than 100,000 downloads on NPM since it was launched. So that's also quite a huge number. And other tools also. You can find these metrics on NPM. As for the concrete projects that implement them, we know only of projects that contact us, but there are many more projects that implement it without contacting us. And we actually think this is really nice because that only goes to show that the documentation is well built and the tools are easy to use. So they do not need to contact us, the teams.
Nice. Awesome. So, okay. So these are already teams that are using this, but someone who's a newbie, like who's just trying out crypto, right? Mm-hmm. How do you plan on sort of supporting them, right? Documentation is one thing, but they require a lot of hand holding. Do you plan on doing some sort of tutorials or things around those lines to get new users to implement smaller example functionalities? Any thoughts around that?
Well, this, for example, depends greatly on whether the people are users, if they want to try XCM, or if they are developers and they want to implement XCM. They are able to implement smaller XCM packages, smaller parts of our they are able to build dApps that do not have such cross-chain support easily with the guides that we offer, because we go to, like, we almost list you every example you can do with the tools. So I think the docs are really easy to follow and easy to, if you are a newbie, it's easy for you to understand how this works. But you are right. We were suggested to create some overview video of the tools, which would also maybe help people to decide. And we have it in plan actually for the next month or next 2 months to build something like this for people.
Nice. I mean, overall, so one thing that I also wanted to talk about is the API, right? So the API use, what does handling 50,000 requests with ParaSpell look like? right? I mean, that also the XCM SDK, because that's what it's getting sort of routed to, right? And how are you handling indexing or caching that data?
We do not collect any data. This is our strict policy. We want to keep anyone using our tools anonymous. So we do not collect any data. We only collect the...
No, I mean caching sort of or blockchain history. Like, how do you cache that? Do you use some sort of indexer to store? Like, how do you?
You mean
get
for
that data?
XCM visualizator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the API, right? Because the API also would allow you to fetch some data. In the XCM like spell, the API.
It only gives you ability to do XCM calls and it allows you to do queries, but these queries are from maps that are implemented in SDK, and this is because we want the response to be immediate. If we were to create another package that would serve you these queries, it could mean that there will be potential slowbacks. That we want to make this tool as efficient as possible. And for the XCM visualizator, the data, we currently are planning to get the data from Subscan, which has a nice free plan, which allows you to do 100,000 queries per month. So we are currently thinking about implementing that, but we also got offer from another team called Soda Zone team, I believe. They built XCM tracker, which allows you to basically subscribe yourself to XCM exinstricts, and it allows you to collect them as they go, which would make the tools really nice because it would update the tool in the real time. But currently they do not support as many chains as we need. We need the entire ecosystem. So we are leaving this option open, and we may implement them later on once they implement more chains.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So talking about query overall, there is something called the cross consensus query language that is sort of that there's a proposal around this. So this essentially works kind of like how GraphQL essentially works and lets you query XCMs in a similar way. So I hope you to take a look at that too. I think that might be a very interesting way to like get that required data, because I feel even like if you have to sort of build something production ready that utilizes XCM as sort of a storage and action platform, right? You need to have a platform that can, or an SDK or an API that can give you things that you need to record and update things, right? So that would also mean that because if you don't have that recorded somewhere and you can't do anything, for users it might be difficult to build production apps that have to store. But I mean, how do you recommend people storing this data that they send over to XCM?
It depends on the use case. If you, for example, build front end which sends cross-chain messages, you may have a database that stores it, but the thing is, you don't need to really store this because you subscribe to the event once you submit the transaction, and it lets you know all the necessary details. Like, for example, if the transaction was processed, and you can tell the user, okay, the transaction is processed. You have here the transaction hash, and for example, you can link this transaction hash to Subscan. So if they click on the notification, it will bring them to Subscan, and they can see this exinstrig already. So this is not handled by our tools, as this is, I believe, strictly for front-end developers to take care of this matter, because it would make the package much bigger when we had to implement also an indexer. But overall, I think there's a lack of indexers in the ecosystem, because I couldn't find free indexer for testnet, and I've searched really hard. I have another project where I am supposed to implement the NFT fetching the NFTs of selected account, and we use Polkadot unique query for this, which allows us, which builds the queries for us, as we are not I am not that familiar with indexers and how they work. So they build the queries for us, and they submit it to Subsquid. But they do not have a support for testnet. So, and I wasn't able to find any indexer that's easy and simple to use. I believe that Subsquid has a support for testnet, but I'm not sure how to use it as a developer that do not have much experience with indexers.
They have a custom query language too. I mean, that also sort of gets a little overall. Right. So, okay. So looking ahead, what does the roadmap for ParaSpell look like?
Yeah. So we always strive to bring the latest and the greatest to our developers and users. Thus, we have many improvements planned already, and everyone can observe them in issues that are currently open in the XCM tools repository. We also want to increase ways we can provide support to other teams. And of course, we want everything to still remain completely open source and free for everyone. And we would want this to stay like this forever. As for our roadmap, we wish to keep up with the XCM updates, because that's really difficult when so many versions come out really quickly. But we also want to introduce XCM NFTs once adoption increases. In fact, we have just proposed, as I already mentioned, a Web3 Foundation grant independently from ParaSpell XCM tools, but from our ParaSpell Research Foundation group, where we want to build a new cross-chain NFT palette called XCNFT, to bring adoption to cross-chain NFTs across the ecosystem, because we've seen there's much need for this, and we also have an issue open in our repository for this by independent user who wanted to transfer NFTs from Astar, for example. And of course, this is just a shout to the woods, because we firstly have to get adoption from parachains, obviously, which can sometimes prove to be difficult when you are independent non-parity team. However, I'm confident.
So one question I had. So why is it difficult? Is the protocol, the format sort of not supported well enough for NFT transfers, or is the XCM palette itself does not have support for NFT transfers?
No, I actually meant support from parachains to implement the. But honestly, I think it's difficult to implement the XCM NFTs as of right now, as there are limited amount of options you have. You have two palettes. One is by Unique, and the other one was created in Web3 Foundation grant. But yeah, we haven't seen much adoption from parachains, and I'm not sure why. I really wish that if we build this palette, I want to contact the parachain teams and try to talk with them as to why they didn't implement this, and if they would consider implementing ours. And I want this palette to be firstly, while we will be building it, it will be curated by us, but then I want it to be as the support grows, as parachains implement it, I want it to be handled and curated democratically by parachain teams, which together they can decide what other things they would like in that palette, in that cross-chain NFT palette. So I would like to go that way.
So for new developers or for people who are looking to contribute, what are some ways that they can contribute to ParaSpell?
They can open issue that helps us a lot as well, and if they are knowledgeable with code, they can either propose new innovation or they can open PR with a new innovation.
Got it. Okay, I think this has come to an end to the podcast. It's been a really, really interesting journey, and you had amazing insights. So thank you for sort of making it so much easier for us to understand how things work in the ecosystem. And for our listeners who wanted to learn about ParaSpell, please get in touch if you feel that you can help out ParaSpell in some way. I think Dudo would love to have our talk to you. Please drop him a message. Telegram message would do really well. And awesome. So thank you so much for your time, Dudo. This concludes the episode 6 of AwesomeDOT. If you have found, if our listeners found this value in this episode, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. This is Yogesh signing off. Until next time.